Hey, it's Brennan here. So this video is about my top albums of 2003. I'm going to go over my top 3 albums of the year, give some honorable mentions, and then talk about what I was listening to at the time. So my number 1 album from 2003 is Waking the Fallen by Avenged Sevenfold. This is their second album from back when they had a metalcore sound. And I think this is they screamed on this album. They kind of moved away from the screaming sound after this album. They pretty much eliminated screams from their sound after this, with the exception of a few tracks where they still do it in the future. But this has to be my favorite metalcore album of all time. I like all their albums though that they put out after this, except for 2013's Hail to the King. That one I didn't really like as much. So my second favorite album of 2003 is The Silent Circus by Between the Buried and Me. This is their second album. Very technical, progressive metalcore with death metal influences. They improved on the sound from their first album, but they still haven't quite found their optimal sound, in my opinion. But still very solid. Everything they put out is good. My third favorite album from 2003 is Train of Thought by Dream Theater. This is their 7th album. It's more of an average album in their catalog, in my opinion. Not their best, not their worst, but good enough to get them in the top 3 spot on my list for 2003. So there's my top 3. What are some honorable mentions? Lots of good ones that didn't quite make the cut for the top 3, but still worth mentioning. The Artist in the Ambulance by Thrice. It's some good post-hardcore. I think it's my favorite Thrice album. Damnation by Opeth. That'd be their 7th album, their first non-metal album. It's almost like an acoustic album, more inspired by 70s prog rock and not their typical progressive death metal that they were doing before this. Deloused in the Comatorium by Mars Volta. It's some crazy prog that everyone should check out. And The Power to Believe by King Crimson, more crazy prog that everyone should check out. And the last honorable mention I'll say today is The Trees Are Dead and Dried Out, Wait for Something Wild by Sixth, which is maybe the first gent album that wasn't Meshuggah, but it's so much more than just gent. There's some great piano tracks on this album and some weird avant-garde stuff as well. But again, since I was really young back in 2003, like with my past few videos for 2000, 2001, and 2002, I wasn't really listening to any of these albums at the time. So what were the things I was listening to at the time? I was deep in my Eminem phase now, listening to 2002's Eminem Show. Just pretty much spinning that for at least a year. So that was probably my favorite in 2003, even though it's from 2002. But some other things that I remember coming out in 2003 that I enjoyed was The Fallen by Evanescence, and continuing with my rap phase, Get Rich or Die Tryin' by 50 Cent. And that's all I have for today. Share yours, and thanks for watching.